Hello to everybody watching this recorded session. We're EPIC Psychology and Wellbeing Service. We're going to talk a little bit about the remote path, how we dealt with lockdown to enable us to continue to support our schools, children and families. So if we introduce ourselves, I'm Paula, the Senior Educational Psychologist and Service Manager with EPIC. And we also have...
Hi, my name is Madeleine Nicol and I'm the Lead Assistant Psychologist for EPIC.
Hi, I'm Megan Shaw and I am the Psychological Services Assistant at EPIC.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we're taking ourselves back 12 months and what we're going to do is just share some of the experiences we've had and the developments for our service. So we're sharing our story with you, really. We're not saying that this is the perfect way to have gone about things, but what we are saying is that we've been really proud as a service with the achievements that we've made over the last 12 months. We are a small team. We've got 3 educational psychologists, we've got 2 employed assistant psychologists and 2 volunteers. So please do bear that in mind when you listen to what we've been up to over the last 12 months. So we're going to talk about a couple of pathways that we've ventured down with different sort of timeline flags along the way. So for flag number 1, we're going to talk about team connection. That was in March 2020 at the start of everything. Number 2, we'll have a look at some information packs that we quickly put together to support schools and families. 3 is how we use Twitter. 4 is how we continue to deliver training remotely. And 5 and 6 are about a recovery curriculum, I say that in inverted commas, that we put together to help children and staff return to schools after the initial lockdown. Okay. So way back when, this was when we knew very, very little about Teams and about remote working, because we are definitely a social service and we like that human contact. So we had to work very, very quickly navigating Teams to be able to use it effectively. So what we did, because there were so many changes with getting our heads around those systems, so many changes government-wise, school-wise, you name it, we had to have weekly meetings as a team to keep in contact and keep up with everything and the changes and what we were developing. What we wanted to do was set up an achievement log as well, because we'd suddenly been oiked out of our natural habitat, if you like, and we needed to capture what we were feeling quite pleased with as a service, to show that we were still able to do a good enough job under the circumstances. We set up weekly have a cuppa and catch up meetings so that we could just have 30 minutes of social chit chat, all those little incidentals that we weren't managing to get. We used Teams for our supervision sessions, which continued obviously, and we had a quiz night because we actually said goodbye to 4 of our colleagues during lockdown 1. So we had a quiz night and celebration night, and we've also taken on new members of staff remotely, and one person that we've had with us from De Montfort University on a 6-week placement has said how personal we've made the whole experience for her, which is really good feedback for us that it's working. I'm going to hand over to Maddie, and Maddie will talk about the information packs and how we've used Twitter and recorded training.
So on the 26th of March, as an initial first response to the pandemic, we provided online supportive resource packs through our website for schools and families. We uploaded first a home learning resource pack with advice and resources for staff and parents to give children an understanding of COVID, firstly, so by using social stories and example explanations and information. And we also included activities and games to help boost resilience and help to reinforce structure and support anxiety during this time. We also responded to the emerging need for an adult self-care support pack while school staff and families were working and supporting children remotely. And this pack covered emotional wellbeing care, relaxation and wellbeing exercises, and specific mindfulness at work strategies. And what we did was we continued to update the packs with new resources to keep it relevant and to make sure that we continue to help meet the need during different stages of the pandemic. So next slide, please, Megan. Thank you. Then moving into the 1st of April, EPIC decided to launch the EPICCalm Twitter challenge. And we did this throughout the month of April. What we did was we provided public relaxation activities every day, challenging families to have one calm moment a day and share this on Twitter. And the aim of this was to promote wellbeing during the beginning of the pandemic and show families the many different ways that they can create moments of calm every day. So we had our resource packs that we posted on our website, but what we really wanted was something a little bit more interactive, and so came along the EPIC Twittercalm challenge. And this challenge proved very engaging. We were delighted with the engagement from the public, and it actually reached 99,000 impressions throughout April. So we reached 99,000 people through the Twitter challenge. Next slide, please, Megan. So after the Easter holidays, from the 1st of May, we started to then think about our own training. So we started developing and launching recorded training packages for schools through the use of PowerPoint and video editing software. So we provided CPD for school staff in areas such as executive functioning, working memory, and training in interventions such as direct instruction and precision teaching, so that these could be implemented on the eventual return to school so that children were supported, but also so that schools could provide support for children throughout their remote learning. What we did in order to disseminate these recorded workshops was we created an efficient system to firstly disseminate the online training, and to do this we allowed delegates to receive an online training link and resource pack that expired after a month of access. Then to collect feedback from delegates, we moved our evaluation forms online to track both access but also usefulness of the workshops to make sure that what they were accessing was useful during this time. We've had really positive feedback from delegates on the use of our online workshops, with many actually finding that content was really useful in supporting children remotely, and also in the planning of support throughout the transition back to school. And we've also found that for many schools, online training was preferred for some workshops because it provided that flexibility in when it could be accessed. And then we've just included some lovely quotes there from our workshops. The workshop offered ways to support children during this current and challenging climate. And a particular person that engaged in our executive functioning workshop that said they were fascinated to learn about executive functioning and why it might be lowering some children on what they can do in school to improve this. Next slide, please, Megan. I'm going to hand over now to Paula.
Thank you, Maddie. So what we did as a team, having discussions again about how can we be working to support children, staff and families coming back into school after the initial lockdown. We just had a general conversation with the team about trying to stand in those folks' shoes really and see what the core areas of difficulty might be. So you can see those core areas there on screen. And what we were finding is that the various studies that started to be done very, very early days about capturing children's views about the lockdown, we were covering those themes, basically the themes of safety, relationships, that need to reconnect and play and socialise, having some certainty about the environment and opportunities. And listening to other colleagues speaking on webinars, because we were all accessing remote training ourselves, at that point. So listening to Louise Bomber, Lisa Cherry, Tina Ray, and so on and so forth, that sort of supported these themes that we were coming up with. Thanks, Megan. So what was important for us, having a think about putting something together, a pack to support this return to school, was that we weren't going to, jump to any conclusions and start medicalizing problems, because everybody was going through the same situation, although everybody's story would be very different, and that story would unfold differently as time went on as well. We'd all cope with this in our own particular way. We very much wanted to look at a whole setting approach rather than just a single child focus approach. And the triangle in the top right there that you can't make out probably on the slide talks about 3 levels of an intervention. So the biggest level at the bottom is holistic recovery or whole school approaches. The next level up is about focused recoveries, that's targeted support for children who need a little bit more. And then at the very top is very personalised recovery. So what we wanted to do with the programme that we were starting to write was cover definitely the whole school one and the targeted provision for staff, for families and for children. Okay, thanks, Megan. So we structured the programme around these 7 different domains. After all the thinking, talking together, listening to other people, so we wrote sections around making sure that we created a safe and secure base on returning to school for everybody, grown-ups and children alike. In fact, we were really trying to promote and push the grown-ups needed time to readapt to the climate themselves and to have that time just to discuss what had happened. We wanted to look at anxiety and dealing with the unknown, cooperation, resilience, loss, gratitude, and trying to love our environment again. Okay, thanks, Megan. So ultimately, we know this. Bessel van der Kolk, a psychiatrist based in America, that's his quote there, at their best, schools can function as an island of safety in a chaotic world. And that's what we were using. We wanted that to be our stable base for children coming back to school. So staff had to feel safe and supported too. So what we did, we put the programme together and then we recorded a video which we put out on our website and social media to actually launch the programme. We wanted to do that because we wanted to say hello face to face as best we could to schools and families, and we wanted to show that we were a coherent and connected team still, even though we were all working incredibly remotely. So what we'll do is Megan's just going to show you the launch video, which perhaps explains the programme better.
I'm just gonna reshare my screen because the audio.
If we struggle to get it going, we can put the link for the video in the chat bar if you wanted to watch it another time. Shall we give it one more try?
Yeah, hopefully this should.
Hi, I'm Paula from EPIC Psychology Wellbeing Services. We've missed you all and we hope you're well. Me and the team are going to introduce you to a new programme that we've written called Bounce Back to Schools. The 20th of March 2020 saw the closure of schools to the majority of children, with the exception of those most vulnerable and those whose parents were key workers. These extreme measures taken by the government were in response to COVID-19 pandemic, and as such the nation entered unparalleled and unique times. The Bounce Back to School programme is written to help ease the transition for surely what is going to be an incredibly difficult time for children, staff and families. Maddie.
Acknowledgement was given to the fact that children, staff and families would be dealing with the unknown, such as how schools would manage reintegration, second or third school closures, heightened anxiety, loss and grief, and possible anxiety at the outdoors and nature. It was also anticipated that cooperation and friendship skills would require a boost, and so too would resilience, given the amount of time we've had out of such a social learning context. Mel.
When schools reopen to more and more children, it is likely that they will be teeming with trauma. In addition to the difficulties Maddie has outlined, we may also have children who are dealing with bereavement, an increase in domestic violence, living in temporary accommodation, all of which might well have been experienced during the pandemic. Schools and families will need to prepare for children and adults' return in a trauma-informed way. In the words of Lisa Cherry, we are only as good a practitioner as our own wellness. Molly.
For this reason, EPIC will be sending out information packs to all school staff before more children return to school. The packs will have information on understanding grief, both children's and our own, separation anxiety, trauma, and a Q&A leaflet for any questions children might have about COVID-19 and much more. We will also be making a similar pack available for parents.
The programme was written with the key aim of pulling together several themes: managing anxiety and uncertainty, thinking about love and loss, pro-social skills and celebrating nature, all under the umbrella of creating a secure base and developing resilience. The aim is to complement any approaches that the school will be using to manage adversity as a system, operating alongside the bereavement policy where appropriate and governmental advice such as social distancing.
Bounce Back to School is a 6-week programme delivered every day over 6 weeks for children in school, where activities for staff, children and families run in parallel with each other. All themes are addressed each week, but each week there will be a focus on one particular area via staff meetings, assemblies, classroom sessions and home activities. Naima.
Week 1, Getting Back on Track. Week 2, Love and Loss. Week 3, Planning and Dealing with Change. Week 4, Coping Skills. Week 5, Celebrate Nature. And Week 6, Staying on Track. Paula.
The information pack will be released first to both school staff and to parents, and then the full programme in line with schools reopening. We hope you find this programme of value at this time, and please remember to look after yourselves too. EPIC will be on hand to support you. See you very soon. Thanks very much, Megan. So what Discovery decided to do was to promote Bounce Back to School programme nationally, not just send it out to schools that we support. And there's the link will pop up in a second. There we go. That's where you can find it. We've had a little bit higher number at the moment than 757, a little bit higher now, downloads so far of different schools using the programme, which is absolutely great to see, because it did take a long time to put together, but it was a really good team building exercise, and we had quite a few tight deadlines to meet, usually on a Friday afternoon. And so for the next slide, Megan, please. What we did was to be as helpful to schools as we possibly could, was set up live question and answer sessions via Teams for any school at all, you know, across the UK to come and join us. So on our first one, which was the 15th of May 2020, we had 69 schools join us to ask questions about the programme, how to implement it, secondary school adaptations, and so on. So it was really successful, and we had schools join all 6 live question and answer sessions. So the next slide just shows some examples of photographs that schools posted on Twitter. So in the first picture, we've got some children there using the gratitude cube, so having a focus on positive reflections and pro-social skills. The second photograph, we've got a couple of children there doing the planting activity, so we encourage the planting of seeds and to nurture those seeds and maybe guess what they were going to grow into, and help the children to deal with changes if the plant didn't grow exactly as they imagined it might grow, and so on. The third one was a feelings ladder that we encouraged all classrooms to have, so children could openly express where they were at particular points in the day and listen to each other's stories and feedback as well. And then the last picture is the guardian angel activity, where children secretly did kind activities towards a selected child in the classroom, and at the end of the week they had to guess who'd been their guardian angel, and then they made gifts for each other, again promoting the positive and pro-social skills. So on the next slide, well, we've skipped autumn 2020 because we were back in schools, albeit in a slightly reduced manner, but we were. And then come spring term 2021, we were back in full lockdown again. So we've got 3 different flags to talk you through. And the next slide, Megan, please.
So on the announcement of the second lockdown, we very quickly sent our partner schools a spring menu of training and service opportunities that they could access whilst we couldn't visit schools. We still wanted to support schools as much as possible through this menu. Now within the menu, we included a selection of recorded parent webinars with accompanying live Q&A sessions on emotional well-being, resilience and anxiety, and how parents themselves could support these in their family and with their children. We also included a variety of pre-recorded staff training workshops, including how best to support literacy difficulties. And we also included drop-in supervision sessions, after-school extracurricular opportunities and supportive wellbeing programmes. Now, in addition to this, during January, we also set up the service to be able to offer child support and interventions remotely using appropriate platforms. And to do this, we had to adapt our existing interventions for remote delivery, and we ensured our online remote intervention protocols and consent forms were created to do this. And we found actually that these remote interventions were really successful, more successful than we thought they were going to be, with some students benefiting greatly from the one-to-one remote support that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Next slide, please, Megan. Now, we'd like to invite you just to pause this recorded video and take part in this reflection activity. We'd like you to have a think of the pros and cons that there are when conducting remote assessments and engaging remotely with children. So just pause this video, reflect on this, and then I'm going to hand over to Paula to talk about what we did.
So we'd had many conversations in service about how to do this, how to engage with children remotely. And Maddie's already talked about some of the one-to-one changes that we did. we also piloted remote observations. So we sent guidance out to schools who were willing to have a go at this. And we needed schools to set up a Teams meeting so that we couldn't possibly be recording the observation. And we would have our cameras off, our microphones off, but we would have checked a few minutes beforehand with the adult facilitator that the camera position was okay, and that we knew which which chair the child was going to be sitting in if it was a child that we hadn't seen before. So when that worked well, it worked incredibly well. As long as the audio was okay, you know, then we could pick up what the child was saying as well. So that enabled the educational psychologist to really focus on the child, have full concentration. The child didn't know we were there. It truly was a fly on the wall observation style. Some things weren't as good as reality, obviously, like looking at eye contact and the subtleties of non-verbal communication could be quite difficult depending on the camera angle. We couldn't see what the children were writing in their learning because of the glare off the paper and things like that. But in terms of how they responded to the learning, how they responded to each other, their concentration, their motivation, and all of those things, I think it really, really did help. So we're into double figures with doing remote observations, and they've been really helpful. We were asked to take part in Discovery Live event, which our two undergraduate assistants took part in. So Megan will talk now about the Take a Break programme.
So, as part of the January spring menu of services EPIC could provide schools, the Take a Break with EPIC programme was one of them. So the assistant psychology team created a programme pack that contained a range of activity resources, aiming to guide both adults and children in the best ways to take regular, restful breaks. So this was based on the research that having regular breaks throughout the day contributes to preventing exhaustion, burnout, and increasing resilience. So this programme was launched and shared with all Discovery Trust schools in February. So now on to the month of March. In this month, we finalised and finished creating our Bitmoji classrooms to facilitate one-to-one remote work with students. We first discovered the Bitmoji classrooms when we watched a webinar by Keith Hooton, who demonstrated how to create them and showed off some of his work. This really helped provide us with the inspiration to set up our own. So to explain a bit more about what Bitmoji classrooms are, they are basically virtual e-rooms which can be used for remote sessions one-to-one with children. You can design the rooms to look exactly how you would like, which is really fun to do. These rooms work by sharing your screen with the child. So the child can see the room, the links which take you to the activities, and also participate in the session. I'm now going to demonstrate how to use and navigate the Bitmoji classroom, and also show what one of our classrooms looks like. So as you can see, we first have the welcome room. So this room is essentially an introductory room, and it has the educational psychologist Bitmoji inserted into it. So in this room, we also have a few links. So if I was to click on the picture of the cat, it will take us to Paula's one-page profile. When the one-page profile loads. So the one-page profile is really useful in helping the child to get to know the EP a bit more. It sort of gives some background information. We also have a few introductory activities in the classroom. So we have the My Feelings and About Me. So if I click on the My Feelings activity, My Feelings link, it will take us to the Feelings emoji activity, which looks like this. We also, if I was to click on About Me, that would take us to the Incomplete Sentences activity. So these introductory activities are just quite a nice way to sort of ease into the session and hopefully make the new experience for the child really exciting and a little bit less daunting, as it's quite new to them. We have also created the assessment type room. So this room has a lot more activities in. With these activities, they focus on more specific topics such as anxiety, well-being, but you can link in any sort of activities you want to target any specific areas. So if I was to click on the link for number 2 for anxiety, this would take us to the anxiety 5-point scale. As you can see when it's loaded, this takes us to the 5-point scale. If I was to click on the link for number 5 for well-being, this would take us to a different activity, and this time the importance jars, which the child can work through with the EP. So all of the numbers here will take us to different activities which target specific topics. Hopefully this has given a little bit of insight into what the Bitmoji classrooms are, what they look like, and how they work. So how many people have we reached? On this slide, we have some statistics about how many people we have reached despite being remote. So the total number of people reached is 1,508. We have reached 85 plus teachers, also ELSAs, through remote live training. 367 schools have been reached through pre-recorded training and workshops. 127 ELSAs and school staff have been offered supervision. We've still had involvement with 117 referred children and families because of Teams and other platforms used, consults, observations, assessments, MDTs. Authorities reached nationwide includes 757 for the Bounce Back to School programme and 49 for Creative Play. And alongside all of this, we have still even appointed 10 staff through remote interviews.
So what do we have now that we didn't have before in service? Well, we've been able to record 8 online workshop packages. We've been able to run 5 live recorded training events, and within all of those, we've managed to receive great turnout. We were also able to develop the Bounce Back to School programme with various age group adaptation booklets. And from that, we've also begun the development of a resilience programme called Sunflowers. We set up Bitmoji classrooms and remote intervention assessment and observation protocols. And we've now got 15 packages for schools that we wouldn't have been able to create if it hadn't been for the opportunity of remote working. Thank you, Megan. So we have another reflection activity for you now. Please pause this video and have a think about what would you keep about the new technological developments in terms of your own practices, and what can you not wait to see the back of. So pause this video, have a think about that question, and then when we come back, Paula's going to talk us through what we've decided to hold on to. Thank you, Megan.
Okay, so we've decided that there are some benefits to remote working that we are going to hold on to. Team meetings, I mean, we'll probably hold on to it for some team meetings, but not for all. It still is nice to meet people, and we do have a high turnover of staff coming into EPIC because we're a training environment as well. So we wouldn't want to do everything remotely. We'd still want to see people face to face. But I think if we did a mix of the two, it does also save on travelling, because we travel around on the county a lot as it is. So it's quite nice not to have to do that all the time. I think some consultations work really, really well online. you know, everybody, we have to keep to time, and we've got that dedicated session. There's very little interruptions for online consultations, so that's gone really, really well. Online MDTs has worked well in the main. You know, there's usually more people attending those, but that's not our decision to make, really. That would be community paediatricians and how they decide to move forward, but we found it really useful in the main. Myself, I found the remote observations really, really helpful. Again, for younger children, sort of social communication difficulties, you know, we definitely need to be live and in the classroom. But for other situations, it's just worked really well. And especially if the child would, you know, if their behaviour would be impacted by knowing that we were there watching them, you know, because they were worried about that or whatever, then that's been really helpful. I think if supervision suits people, where we have it remotely again sometimes, but face-to-face sometimes, then that works well, because it does save us time to do other activities. And as Maddie pointed out earlier, you know, we've the recorded training, the online training has gone down really, really well. The team have been so incredibly busy putting those together, and we've got those, you know, forever, or until at least new research comes along and we have to update in a few years' time. The Bitmoji classroom has been, again, really useful, perhaps for, you know, those children who feel more comfortable engaging like that, at least on an initial appointment. So I think we've got to think quite carefully about what we do let go, what we do hold on to, you know, and just make it workable for everybody, really, rather than slipping into old habits, or, you know, just slipping into what's easiest, really. So thank you for listening to this. Hope it's been of some help listening to our story. And just going to hand over to Megan for the final activity of the day, and take good care of everybody.
Thank you, Paula. So we thought it'd be quite nice to add in the star breathing relaxation exercise from our Take a Break with EPIC programme. So to begin, we want to hold out our hand and spread our fingers out like a star. Then with our index finger on our other hand, we're essentially tracing around the star hand. So as we move up our finger, we're going to breathe in through our nose and pause at the top. And as we move down our finger, we're going to breathe out through our mouth. Pause and breathe in through our nose. Pause and breathe out through our mouth. Pause and breathe in through our nose. Pause and breathe out through our mouth. Pause. Breathe in through our nose. Pause and out through our mouth. Breathe in through our nose. Pause and out through our mouth. Thank you very much for joining in with this breathing exercise with me. So you can do this breathing exercise. We've only done it taking 5 slow deep breaths, but you can do it for as many times as you want until you are feeling nice and relaxed. I hope you enjoyed it and you are all feeling a bit more relaxed now. Thank you.